Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dirt Report. We are here with week 10. I cannot believe we're already on week 10, but we are here after one of the craziest weeks we have seen in Collegiate Siege so far. Before we get into that, a warm welcome to everyone joining me tonight. As always, we've got Taco, Klimpse, JMBeast, and our special guest tonight is Baka coming over from Arizona State. So we've got a lot of spicy stuff to talk about, especially relating to your team. Baka, how you doing tonight, first of all? I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm excited because this week was messy. It was full of a lot of nonsense. From the bottom of the top 25 to the top, we saw some pretty ridiculous outcomes. So we are excited to break things down. Before we do that, of course, to go through the intro, I'll tell you exactly where we are in all of our respective leagues. Of course, CEA just concluded the invite playoffs with NCSU taking a pretty solid, easy win against UAH and claiming their first victory of the season, the stage, the semester. Over in the Face It Collegiate Championship preseason, we are nearing the round of 8, and so we are really getting into the quarterfinals, the semifinals. We're gonna get into those finals very soon. And over, I guess CEA Open, they still haven't played that final game, but over here in CR6, we are well underway into stage 2, actually nearing the playoffs in just a couple of weeks' time. So things should be increasing, getting a bit exciting as we go forward. But first things first, a segment we introduced last week and one we will repeat again tonight: the good, the bad, and the ugly. Which of these teams out there had a good week? Who had a bad week? And who just had an ugly week? Who looked ugly while doing it? We're going to get into that right now. Taco, let's start with the good.
All right, Jonah. First of all, to get this out of the way, if it were up to me, this segment this week would have been called the okay-ish, the bad, and the ugly, because our nomination for good is Kettering, which we still don't know what that is. But Kettering is a team that has had a pretty okay week. Obviously, taking down Akron as well as GCU is not a bad day in the office, but no, it wouldn't be collegiate if teams didn't rise our hopes only to later dash them on the rocks of a loss to Kent State, which is a team that hasn't really seemed to be, one of those top invite teams yet. But still, Kettering, credit to them, right? They had a pretty okay week. It was okay. It was just
Listen.
it was okay. It was
They
okay
beat
at best.
Akron. They beat GCU. That's
They beat
impressive stuff.
GCU. Don't even saying they beat GCU like that's a thing. Like, cool, bro. Like
Everyone beats GCU.
that's like saying you got out of bed this morning.
Ooh,
Literally anybody does that.
Taco.
Wow.
After that last week, you know
Wow.
what? I agree.
Well, Kettering's victory is obviously that's pretty impressive stuff. They did lose to Kent State right after, which was very confusing to all of us who witnessed that. Um, Kent State, which is a team that just lost to Akron and just lost to GCU 1 week prior, just beat a team who beat both of those other teams. So that's kind of where we're at this week. It's an absolute mess. Let's talk about the bad. This one, Miggs, I'll throw this one to you.
Yo, the big bad is Akron, man. They're the way they're playing. Yeah, they got the big old spoiler alert, little upset by ASU. They're struggle busing the week before they lost to Kettering. They're trending down. They didn't win CEA invite. All their expectations for this fall kind of looked down. They didn't win CR6 stage 1. Hey, they're on the verge of a total hopes being destroyed.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about that ASU game, and why don't we get into that right now? Even though we're going to mention it a couple more times throughout the night, the Akron ASU game, it was something else. It went all 3 maps, and it ended with a rule debate, followed by ASU just winning it out, just normally, just a 5-on-5. Frag on frag. And Baka, you guys pulled it out. Talk to me a little bit more about that matchup. I know there was a lot of turmoil. It was a spicy one. Tell me, how'd you get that victory done? And was it easier than you thought? Baka, I hate to cut you off here. Do you happen to be muted? Do you
Okay.
happen to be muted on VMix? I happen to have you check that. Okay, while he figures that out, we're gonna have him say all of that again because I know I
It was,
want
oh, it
stream
was
to
great.
hear that.
It was great.
I mean, he was saying good
Oh,
stuff.
we were just
It was
loving
good.
listening to it.
Mhm.
Man, I mean, we are here. We are here, and hopefully we'll hear from Bach in a moment.
Hey, one
But,
thing to fill some air while we wait for Baka to get back.
Sure.
While we're talking about Akron, one thing that's interesting to note is I believe that Mitch has made his way back onto the starting roster. I knew he took a couple weeks off while Arv played in his spot, and it seemed like talking to the guys at Akron, it seems like they're focused a little bit more on the future than they are on the present right now, because it seems like the switch to get Arv on the roster was just to have someone with a little bit more experience immediately while they were still in some playoffs for some leagues. But now that they're kind of out of that and they're just cruising through the CR6 regular season, it seems like they are now ready to focus on the future, which is why I believe Mitch is back in, trying to give him a little bit more reps. Because I think they're a really good team when they're going to get everything figured out. But obviously, that's just not right now.
well, Baka, I think you should be worked out now. I'm gonna ask you the question again because I know Stream wants to hear it, and frankly, I want to hear it again.
Yes, sir.
Went against Akron, you got that victory. Tell me again how you made that one happen.
Yeah, so like I was saying, unfortunate technical problems, but yeah. So usually do prep work for all of our matches. This week, unfortunately, wasn't able to do it since had a lot of homework. Usually we do VOD reviews. You know that Akron has a lot of film on them since they're in every single league out there. So I was going to do some prep work for it, but didn't have the chance to before the match. Then going through it, I mean, we were honestly, I think the day prior or the day when I was at school, I was kind of like feeling myself. I was like, hey, I think we can beat Akron tonight. And after like going into the call and after we had beaten them, all of our team had felt the same way. So obviously our vibes were going into it positive. Yeah, I've had a lot of history with Akron. I took a break off in my sophomore year of college because I was in CACL. But in my freshman year, played against a lot of Akron and CA Invite and lost to them a couple times. I don't think I've ever beaten Akron in my college career, so it was a good experience to have. It was a closer match. It went to 3 maps. Second map, we got absolutely destroyed on their I'm assuming one of their better maps of Clubhouse. Yeah, went to the third map. It was a good match, brutal match. Third map had a little bit of a hiccup with some technicalities with some rules that were being a little extended, so to speak. But hey, everything worked out well for us, and we got the dub.
Well, not only that, but you guys had some nice words to say to Akron. I think following the match, we saw this tweet, and we'll pull it up right here for you. Baka, there you are, delivering that nice fat L to our boys at Akron. I mean, all over Twitter, this week was especially tumultuous. I mean, your game had a lot of trash talk surrounding it. And then I gotta say, you guys backed up that trash talk by proving that in the round following, it wasn't just a fluke and you could take down Virginia Tech as well. You're now still hanging around in these preseason playoffs. Do you think you can go all the way?
There's always a possibility for that. We don't take any team lightly. We work hard for all of our matches, even though we don't have set practice times or honestly scrims. Any practice times that we do are from VOD reviewing and just playing together in ranked or stuff like that, since we're all busy with homework at school. So honestly, anything's possible. We have a positive attitude towards our team. We're gonna do everything we can to keep winning and go as far as we can go to just show everyone that hey, ASU is now in the realm of the top collegiate teams.
Awesome. Well, I think we'll talk a little bit more about that rules debacle in just a bit when we get to the drama segment of the night. But for now, let's finish out this good, bad, and the ugly segment and talk about, well, the ugly. JM, I have a feeling you guys wanna you wanna break this one down. Tell me, who is our designated ugly team of the week?
I think it's the person to my
Other
Left.
side.
The other side, yeah.
my left here, the ugly. Klimpse, what are you guys doing over there? You guys got a coach, so you'd be better. Like, what is going on?
I'm gonna disagree with the ugly because as much as like, right, yeah, we lost all of the games we played this week, and yeah, it sucked. But we had so much of our heart set riding on that UAH game, and with how close it was, with us taking the map that we lost last time. So we should have, inevitably or like expectedly, right? It kind of went the opposite of how we expected, right? They took our map, we took their map, and then the final map, we ended up making an improvement and brought that map to OT wise. So I think overall we had improved from the first time we played against UAH. But I think we had so much our heart set riding on that. If we win that UAH game, we mop the floor with UL and Kettering. But since we lost, I think we were just so kind of focused and kind of upset about it. We wanted that Arizona versus Arizona matchup, and did not go well.
Yeah, nothing really went well for you this week. And like JM said, surprising, you bring on this coach, I think his name is Chef. And
Mhm.
he, comes in, and honestly, when I listened to the comms from your UAH game, I was surprised because for the first time watching one of your streams, it wasn't just Mend moaning and you moaning and complaining back. Actually, I heard everybody talking. Everyone was conversing, and maybe the comms needed some work, but you guys were calming. You guys were energized, and that was very surprising, honestly, to hear, and something that I like to hear. I often knock GCU and maybe say that they're one of these teams that are at the top, but like, are they at the top? But in all seriousness, I love to see you guys improving, and I'm hoping that maybe with that communication
Yeah.
going forward, we can see you rise a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's coming with the switch of the meta that we're seeing in collegiate. That's why you're seeing teams like us and Akron struggle, who thrived last year, which was, we were the teams that would just kind of quick heads and move on. But now let's get more strat based stuff like that. Obviously, you see teams like NCSU, Converse, Purdue starting to make their rise more so at that top of the end, UAH even, with more strats and stuff like that. So as we're starting to kind of learn ourselves and how we want to attack those things, it's been definitely a process. We're still changing stuff. You guys are gonna see role swaps even this week, or next week, when we play the triple header for Series 6. And they'll surprise people probably the way we're gonna swap things up, but I think it's gonna be good for us in the end. I think it's gonna put us in the right projection. I think come Series 6 playoffs stage 2 and the beginning of the new season for Face at CA, I think it's gonna be a lot better for us.
I smell
Well,
cap.
well, there's a lot that can be debated here. Obviously, Klimpse has had a lot to say about GCU in the past, and well, we've seen some of those things come true, and some of those things, well, fail miserably as they did this week. But let's dive into the top 25. We can pull up our power rankings for the day and actually take a look at who we've got in this top 25 picture. Now, not a lot has changed this week in terms of who is on the top 25. No new additions other than Arizona State, naturally. But other than that, this has been one of the most chaotic weeks we have seen so far. We have a lot of big movers, a lot of big, again, a lot of big risers, a lot of big fallers, and well, let's do it as we usually do. Let's start in the bottom here. Now, in this bottom five, that is UNCC, NJIT, Alabama, CGC, UIC, and Cincinnati. This is the same bottom five that we've seen in the past. But the biggest real name to mention here, and Miggs, I'll come to you for UNCC here. It is, North Carolina Charlotte. They're a team that is seeing a 4-point rise from the previous week, and really the only team in this bottom five that really had a positive outcome this week.
Yeah, they finished coming off the win on Cincinnati, handing them their first big loss of the year. 2-0. It was in CEA, I believe. And then they come off and get a 2-0 win against CGC in Face It playoffs as well. It's a roster that's been around since, I want to say, at least core wise a year and a half. But now that they're only in Face It, they don't really expose themselves much to progression or losses. So whenever they do play, they have to kind of show up, which they did this week with 2 wins.
Yeah, and taking down CGC, UIC, and Cincinnati, both teams who were formerly ranked above them in that Face It bracket, one after another, and they are one of these teams still hanging around in the round of 8. So, not every single team at the bottom here we are going to talk about tonight. We do obviously, every single team up here deserves that spot, but not a ton to say. So we are going to continue to move up this list to the 20 spot, a team that has dropped 5 points. That's Virginia Tech. And Baca, I'll come to you again for Virginia Tech. I want you to tell me a little bit more about how your match against Virginia Tech went. Did they strike you as a team that, currently holds premier status in CR6? Do you think that's a title they deserve right now, or did they just not play like the premier team you expected them to be?
Well, we played against them. The last time I played against them was my freshman year, so 2 years ago. I know that Aiden or Cravington on the ASU roster is friends with people from the Virginia Tech roster. So we kind of have a little bit of an idea going into the match with them. Again, we didn't prepare for this match at all. with any VOD review or anything as well. So we didn't know going into it how it was going to play out, but we just kind of took each run as a little bit of feeling out how they play, questions, here and there. I know on pretty sure the first map was Cafe. I think I'd have to go back and check to see the list. I know that the second map went to OT on Oregon, so that was a little bit of a closer match than we thought because we did make some mistakes on both attack and defense. But I feel like our team has really good resilience and back from I believe a 6-3 deficit to win 8-6, 5 in a row. So wasn't expecting good or bad, but we played it out.
Yeah, well, that brings us, well, to you guys. Arizona State, you guys have not only made your first appearance in the top 25, but you have jumped straight to the number 18 spot on this list. And with that, jump past many teams who have proven themselves in open or invite or premier leagues at this point. Now, can you tell me again, what leagues you guys are competing in right now, and what other teams, what kind of caliber of teams you're facing?
Yeah, so currently we're in obviously the Face It preseason Collegiate championship, and also we're in CEA Open. We aren't competing in CR6 this semester, but I believe next semester or whatever the next competition is to do that. I think the most more exposure we can get as a team, kind of to prove ourselves more. As Miggs was kind of saying, with one of the other teams that they're only in one of the leagues, they're not able to show themselves that much a lot. So I think that's one thing that we're trying to do more because I feel like that we are a good caliber team. We faced Oklahoma's on the list. We faced them in, I believe, CEA Open, one of the leagues, and completely demolished them. That was with VOD review, so it was fun watching back the VOD on that one to see the reactions. But yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of teams in the list are qualified to be there. How we stand versus them, we haven't played a lot of the teams, so I don't know if fully, but I'm happy where we're at.
Awesome. Well, that brings us to the number 17 spot and working our way up into this top 15. But first, we've got to pause a minute here at the 17 spot because this is North Carolina State B Taco, a team near and dear to your heart, a team that we have talked a good bit about in these weeks past, notably because they are the only B team that has managed to crack the top 25 and hold their top 20 spot. They're going to maintain their 17 spot after a victory over Cincinnati, booking themselves a ticket to the grand final of CEA Open.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's looks like we're going for the clean sweep here in the research triangle, going for both CEA invite and open victories, which would be pretty dope. And what can I say? I think that the last remaining undefeated open team, from what I recall, obviously they haven't been playing in CR6, so take that with a grain of salt. But again, I think they're a team that is really punching above their weight class. I think that they've been surprising a lot of people that are a little bit more established in the scene, especially because they have, I believe, 2 or 3 players who this is their first kind of foyer into any sort of competitive siege at all. So I'm actually incredibly impressed with those guys. I think that they're doing some really good stuff, and I'm excited to see how that stacks up with. I believe it's who are they playing? Who beat Purdue? Wisconsin.
Wisconsin beat Purdue.
Yeah,
Something we're going to talk
we're gonna
about
talk
in just a
about
moment.
that. Jeez Louise. But yeah, I think that they got a real shot, and I'm pumped for that game.
Well, we can continue to work our way up this list and talk about another one of these teams who is, I would say, markedly inconsistent. That is going to be Louisiana, falling dead in the center out of that 15 spot. Louisiana had an incredibly interesting week, right? They played both Akron and GCU, winning against GCU in that best of one, 7-5 on Cafe. Klimpse, naturally, I've got to come to you here. Tell me what ULL did properly. What did they do? I don't care how bad GCU played, okay? I want you to get out of your own head for a moment. Tell me, when you're faced against ULL, clearly they're a competent enough team to earn this 15 spot. They've been dancing around in this 15 range for weeks now. And this is one of those weeks where they jumped up 4 spots because they really earned it.
I don't know. It was an interesting game. I think there was some definitely. I know you didn't want me to talk about it, but there was tension and stuff like that on our side. But that plays a major factor into them beating us. We played them on Cafe last split, I believe. I think we won 7-3 or 7-4, and Cafe is their best map as far as I'm aware of Lafayette.
Why would you take them to Cafe then? What are you doing?
Because they're a team that should be beat easily by us, but obviously that didn't occur. I mean, we took UAH to Clubhouse.
It's the
Everyone
ugly,
says don't
man.
take UAH to
It's the
Clubhouse.
Yo,
ugly.
hold up.
Everyone
It's
says
the
don't take
ugly.
UAH to
It's
Clubhouse.
the ugly.
What?
Everyone
Jake,
says
smell
take
that?
UAH to Clubhouse. Don't do
smell
it.
cat.
And then we didn't beat him.
Hella cap.
Bro,
man.
Okay, so
you're looking for all
so-
that hat.
You guys smell that?
just to
But-
like get an ego boost, you
but-
decide to take a team to their best map. Is that?
Well, it's a map we wanted more practice on. We've been doing a lot of cafe games lately, and so we felt that we had a very good shot, a very a strong chance on that map, especially after beating them last time. But I think they looked at a little bit of VOD stuff from the last time we played them. More likely than not, there is a lot of VODs on us lately. Whenever we lose a lot, like in succession, it's always when there's a lot of games like getting streamed of us in a row. So it's there's
How did this
definitely a
happen?
big
How did
opportunity
this
for
happen?
people.
This is wild.
Remember we were
I'm
talking
just
about,
saying,
remember we talking about
look,
Louisiana?
I'm not
Remember
making
that?
excuses, man.
Yeah,
I'm just
Jonah.
saying.
Jonah,
Remember when I
ask
asked, hey,
Lafayette
let's talk
played
about
well.
ULL for just a
Jonah,
couple of
Jonah,
seconds
ask me about
now.
Louisiana. Ask me
Okay,
about
all
Louisiana,
right.
Jonah.
Taco, here's the
Lafayette-
deal. I
No,
want to
no,
hear about this
Shut
team.
up. Lafayette
Klimpse,
played
you've
well,
talked for like the last 8 minutes.
and
We're
then went
good,
at it.
bro.
All right,
We don't
It
need
was
to
a
hear about
good
GCU
game.
anymore.
we move on.
Taco, tell me about ULL, man.
Yeah, Louisiana. I will say this. I believe in both of their CR6 matches that week. They did play Cafe in both of them. GCU being the second one, so maybe they got a little bit of a warm up. But Cafe is a map that you're not going to win if you are not a very well structured team. So that does mean that they kind of know what they're doing down in Louisiana, down in the Bayou. So I just wanted to say that, as much as Klimpse wants to say it was this, that, and the other, Louisiana definitely came to play, and they showed that they are, there's a reason that they're in this, upper half of the top 25. I believe. I'm not good at math. I'm a film student, but they're in the, the mid teens. So, I think Louisiana is a team that has shown that they are not, they're no pushovers. Sure, take them to their best map, and they will show you that there's a reason that is their best map. And so, hey, hubris, Icarus flying too close to the sun, wings of wax, they melt, and Klimpse comes splatting down on the ground. It's a horrifying scene.
Well, let's take another look at this top 25 here. Let's continue to work our way up this list. We talked a good bit about ULL there. Hopefully, gas those boys up as much as they deserved. Here at the 14, 13, and 12 spot, you've got Penn State, Texas Tech, and Kent State. Now, Penn State and Texas Tech, not a lot happening over there this week. Texas Tech losing to Michigan Tech over in the Face It preseason. But that, as the rankings looked last week, we would have predicted. Same goes for Penn State. Didn't, win or lose any games that were a bit surprising. So they're just dancing around and maintaining their spot, essentially, only dropping down one because a 7-point jump from Wisconsin. And we'll get to them in just a moment. But first, let's talk a little bit more about Kent State, Miggs, because this is a team who has been, first of all, they weren't even on this list like 4 weeks ago, making it into CR6 Premier, not only making a statement along the way, but now maintaining their number 12 spot from last week with an impressive win over Kettering.
Kent State is, they snuck in through the CR6 Phase 1 playoffs, Stage 1 playoffs. They started off hot, had 2 wins, kind of St. Clair's a freebie, then they beat Ohio State. Then they go and proceed to lose 2 matches, Akron and GCU. Kind of expected based on how the standings were. I don't know, I think they could kind of beat GCU right now. And then they go and proceed and beat Kettering. So Kettering going off our good, from our good, bad, and ugly.
Okay.
It's a toss up for Kent, but can Kent hold out, or are they going to still float around that bottom or middle range of premier teams? Can they actually make the push up?
And this was a debate that held us probably for half an hour when we were making the power rankings. Was this Kent State and Kettering debacle, right? Because you've got Kettering on the one hand who beat Akron and GCU, and you've got Kent State on the other hand who lost to them. Right there, you've got Kettering who should theoretically be better. But Kent State just this week dominated Kettering. They didn't just win. I think it was 7-2, 7-3. It was brutal. And Kent State, we put them at this 12 spot and did keep Kettering a little bit higher just because we felt that Kettering being that premier team, they've been around a little bit longer and they showed that experience by beating down these really impressive teams. So that meant a little bit more, but we're in that middle of the pack right now, Taco. And if there's anything we know about this middle range, it's that in any given week, all of these teams could beat each other and you never really know who.
Jonah, let me just say something else. I think the Kent State game was really impressive, just how dominant it was, especially considering I think Smoke was the first dead on Kent State's side probably I think it was 3 times. I know the first 2 rounds Smoke was the first.
It wasn't as bad as it's been in the
Oh
past.
my-
Okay, I
Jonah,
gave him a
Jo-
little crap on broadcast
It
for when I was
was-
casting that game, but it wasn't bad.
It was almost the most heartbreaking part about it, right? Is he died really early those first 2 rounds, and the third round he was the last one alive, and he clutched it up, killing the planner.
Huge
right?
clutch. By
And
the
so
way.
I'm
Yeah.
just like, do that more, man. Like that's the stuff you need right there. That's the secret sauce. But obviously, they know it works for them. So I'll stay out of it from now on. But geez, Louise, I hate to say I hate when I'm right. I hate it.
They had some really impressive moments, some troubling moments, as you said, but they really did look like a competent team. They had an aggressive play style, and Kettering just could not quite deal with that. Sometimes that style gets shut down, and as Akron and GCU both did a week prior, but this time it seemed that Kent State had Kettering's number, and they made pretty swift work of that team as well on Cafe. So moving up now, as we reach into this top 10, this is where things get even crazier. We've talked a lot about GCU. We don't need to talk about them much anymore. They dropped 5 spots because of a loss to several losses to both ULL and Kettering. And now you look up towards that 10 spot, Ohio State, and that 9 spot, Wisconsin. Now, Ohio State dropping 1 really just because Wisconsin made a huge jump this week, moving up 7 spots, the biggest mover of the week, and that is a result of their victory over Purdue. That happened in CEA Open in the semifinals, knocking out the Purdue team, one of these top 4, formerly top 2 teams in collegiate, knocking them out completely of the CEA Open playoffs. Taco, I want to come to you again on Wisconsin here because this is a team that has been put together, a combination of the former UWW and the former Wisconsin, and they've made this powerhouse team that is looking better week after week.
You see Dr. Frankenstein in his lab, right? Just piecing all these, parts together, and he flips the switch and it's alive. It's actually alive. That's crazy. That is what you see in Wisconsin right now. The Cheeseheads are really showing their stuff. It's not every day that you're going to be taking down a team like Purdue, speaking from experience. So the fact that they did it, and was it a 2-0? Is that what I saw, or was it a Wisconsin versus?
I will double check.
It was a 2-0.
Purdue?
It was a 2-0.
Yeah.
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 And so
It
let me
was
tell you something.
14-6.
As a diehard NCSU B team fan, that was a great result for me because I definitely think our B team has a better shot. Sorry, I don't want to make this. I'm not Klimpse. I don't want to make this about me. We're talking about Wisconsin here. The guys. The thing is I think the thing keeping that team back right now is just the consistency, because I'm still confused on who's on the roster for what leagues and who isn't for other leagues, and there's a fuchsia in there and all that stuff. That still kind of boggles my mind, so I'm a little confused. But when they are at their strongest, when they do have that kind of God Squad roster that they've established, they're a pretty scary team.
Yeah, they're going to be a team to keep our eye on in the week to come, in the weeks to come, because they have not lost. They only lost to Converse since they added those players from UWW and formed this, Frankenstein S team, like you said, Taco. They have only lost that one game, I think, to Converse, and they have looked unstoppable since. They are also, obviously vying for that CEA Open title, which NCSUB is also competing for. And we'll know that result on December 9th. That has been delayed several weeks due to the holiday, due to a whole bunch of nonsense. So we're not going to be able to know the conclusion of CEA Open until pretty much the end of the semester. But hopefully we'll have some clarity on that in a couple of weeks. But until then, we can continue to work our way into this top 10. Now, sitting at the number 8 spot, of course, is Kettering, a team that we have talked a good bit about already tonight. So we will move up to number 7 to Akron, a team formerly in the top 4 who has continued to drop off of this list now several weeks in a row, or at least dropped down this list, excuse me. They've dropped 2 spots this week after a loss to Arizona State. JM, I haven't talked to you in a while here, so I want to talk to you about Akron, because obviously we're seeing them shuffle around these role changes. We're seeing them change things around, and we're seeing inconsistent results due to that. What do you think is going on with this team, and are they destined to keep falling, or are they going to eventually work their way back up?
I think eventually they'll work their way up. I think it was like the beginning of the season when they ran into a little bit of a rough patch. They're still same old. I wouldn't say same old Akron, but they still have a lot of parts. I know.
Hashtag blame
Our-
Canadian internet.
Yeah,
Dude, this
I
guy's a
apologize.
robot.
So bad.
You're good, JM. Keep on going. We'll
sorry.
see how it goes.
If not, just pass. I'll just pass it off. But I know Arv had played one game for them into that. Um, and they were just moving around and stuff like that. But I do think they'll eventually make their way back up to the top.
All right. Well, I don't know when that's going to happen here. Now, Baka, I saw you shaking your head there, and you obviously had a firsthand experience with Akron and a firsthand experience with, and no offense to ASU, but a weak Akron in probably in shambles. Did you notice anything about this team that struck you as odd? Considering you said you guys put in a lot of work in terms of VOD reviewing, you've probably seen Akron loads of times on stream before. Was there something that struck you as this is not the team we've come to expect, or something that they just weren't getting down?
Well, for the Akron match, we didn't VOD review him at all because we had no time to with classes and all that stuff. Going into it, I didn't know completely their roster. I think we are in the lobby. We're like, oh, it's Arv. I think that's their coach. But to be completely honest, we were running. It was our first time having Will or Pendy play as a roster.
Mhm.
Came on as a coach because he didn't have the PC. It was his first debut match with us, so we didn't know how that was going to go. I knew it was going to go well because I have confidence in my team. Yeah, I mean, throughout the whole match, we kind of seen, okay, we'll see how they're playing. Obviously, the different play style with the coach or whatnot. Um, Third match, there was a little bit of a. I mean, we'll probably go into the tea of the third match in a little bit, but I mean, I feel like Akron. I mean, for based off the performances, they have the facility, they have all their stuff with our program. They should be performing at a higher level than they are now. So yeah, I mean, that's my thoughts on them.
All right. Well, we can move up to number 6. I think we can head over and take a look at Tulsa. Tulsa's an interesting one, Taco, because we have seen this team do nothing of note in like the last 3 to 4 weeks, I think. And yet they continue to climb up this list as a result of just teams at the top just sucking. Now, obviously that's a little bit harsh, but frankly, Akron has dropped off, Ohio State has dropped off, GCU have all fallen, and UAH have moved up into that top 3, and Tulsa has just kind of worked their way up as a result. Do you feel that this Tulsa team is better than the Akrons, the Ketterings, the Wisconsin of the world, or is this a little bit inflated because of some other teams having some bad performance?
Jonah, that's a really good question. It seems like every collegiate team should just kind of have a little poster on the wall, a little whiteboard that's like days since our last embarrassing loss, right? And right now, Tulsa has probably got one of the highest numbers on the bunch because they've been going week after week without really just making us groan by absolutely fumbling the bag. And the teams that are falling below them, Friday comes around. Oh, geez, here we go again. Going to go back to 0 because we absolutely blew it to Kettering, right? And so, Tulsa's just a team that has remained consistent, right? And I think that's just, they fly on under the radar because they're not very vocal in the community, I would say, but they're just sitting there, they're just doing their job, and they found themselves in a pretty elevated spot here in Collegiate Rainbow Six. Do I think it's sustainable? I I'm nervous, right? Because I don't know, when that other shoe's going to drop, right? When is Tulsa finally going to crack? And it could happen any week. I think. I don't think that they're a experienced enough roster to just consistently win week in week out against every team that they should beat. But that being said, I've obviously been proven pretty wrong a lot on here before, so I it could happen.
Well, I think time to move into the top 5 with that. I think we can head and take a look here at these top players, these top teams rather. Michigan Tech, a victory over Texas Tech in the Face It Collegiate Championship preseason. That one, of course, expected, but still a very important victory for them. I believe that was 2-1. But Purdue, the team of note, the team that is still remains in the top 4, but dropping another spot after a troubling loss to Wisconsin. Now, we don't have laggers on the broadcast tonight. I think he's at a basketball game right now. But Purdue is a team that we have to talk about because they have had a rough 2 weeks. Last week, they earned the moniker as the ugly team in the good, bad, and the ugly. And this week, a troubling loss to a team that, yes, while strong, has no business beating a top 4 team in collegiate at the moment. Purdue in shambles, it seems, Klimpse. Are we going to see them rebound, or are they going to need to shuffle things around to get back?
Yeah, it's interesting with Purdue. They're kind of in the
Muted.
same like.
Muted on our Discord. They're gonna have to
Whoops, there we go.
be
I fixed it.
Stream probably heard you though.
Well, anyway, Purdue's been having an interesting time. They're kind of in that limbo that Akron and GCU are in, but not as far down. I think. I still think that they're ahead of the curve, when it comes to that. Um, and before y'all start thinking I'm talking about myself, I'm just using that as a comparison because that's easy
Always
to
are.
compare. Okay. So let's not get off me here, right? So I think they're in that limbo, but I think that they're ahead of the curve. But they are still kind of we're having a lot of the same comparisons, a lot of similarities between all of those teams where they're losing to teams that they shouldn't be losing to. Like Purdue should never lose to Wisconsin. Not to discredit Wisconsin because they look like a really good roster now and they're getting better and better. But that's a team that Purdue should always historically beat, right? We're also looking at different recent games. Personally, one of my predictions was that they were actually going to lose to Tulsa. Well, in the Face It playoffs, they actually won 2-0, so that was a good game. And yeah, I think had they lost that, it would have been an ugly week for them too. But since they were able to get that win over Tulsa, I think that Purdue looks all right. They look like they're in a good spot. I'll be interested to see where they finish out this playoffs for Face It, but for the Face It preseason. But I think Purdue's kind of starting to bounce back, but they're still in that iffy space.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And of course, moving into that top three, Alabama Huntsville, who made it into that top four last week, now moved up one spot. They did lose pretty dramatically so to NC State over in the CEA Invite Finals. But with Purdue falling off to the Wisconsin loss, they moved up that one spot as well and seem to continue to earn that spot every single week. But now we can get to the top two because as we talked about last week coming into today, we actually saw for the first time NCSU take on Converse. Now, Taco, you had some choice words to say about this matchup last week, and I think Rusty made you hear those words once again on Twitter after the troubling performance that you guys had against Converse. Talk to me a little bit about that loss, and how Converse was able to make you guys look, frankly, a little bit silly.
Sure, Jonah. I appreciate the very not loaded question. To answer that, obviously, anyone who watched the game knows that we looked pretty rough. Losing to South Carolina, a South Carolina team like that's something that as North Carolinians we're pretty ashamed. That being said, during the game or right after the game immediately, we were it was rough. But to be honest, I think I'll just speak for us personally. I think that's probably one of the best things that could happen for us because usually, we're a team that is very, very rarely outworked, right? We're a team that has gotten to the top because we work really hard, and a lot of times people use that to discredit us. But I think that's something that we're pretty proud of. And for once, we were kind of on the receiving end of what it felt like to be outworked, right? A team that just wanted it a little bit more, and they showed it. And I'm not saying that in like, oh, you wanted it so bad kind of way, but like actually, like the hard work does pay off. And this was a bit of a wake up call for us. We had, 3 games that week that weren't particularly challenging. The OEH game was the one that we were really stressing about the most, and that one ended up being a big nothing burger. So we kind of just went into that game thinking that we were, the cat's pajamas. And honestly, we got our butts handed to us a little bit. And so, if all goes to plan, we will be seeing Converse again in the Face It preseason, I guess, semifinals if we beat UNCC and they beat whoever it is they have to play. But again, we're a team that this has been a real wake up call for us. We're a team that's not very rarely outworked, and we are not going to let it happen again.
All right, well, that's good to hear. Ice Cold, who we had on last week, wasn't willing to trash talk it too much. He was being humble about his team, but he didn't have to say much because he backed it up in game. That entire team put on a very impressive performance. They, clearly put the work in on that VOD review. They had a couple of nice rushes. Locurio had a 1v5 that just was.
Did he? I don't remember that.
It was very impressive stuff. And yeah, I mean, I cannot wait to see what you guys have in the future. Now that you guys have that fire, you could say lit under you guys. It'll be exciting to see exactly where that matchup goes in the future because we only have seen that Converse NCSU game once. And it was a best of one. And so we still want to see, that full best of 3, that full-fledged matchup between these two teams with the, the entire map pool that both of you guys bring to the table. So that rounds out our top 25. And with that, we can finally move into the spice that we promised you a little bit earlier. We can start off, Baka, why don't we, with a topic we've already mentioned, and that is the rule debacle and the shenanigans that occurred in the Akron game, specifically in map 3. I can kind of set the stage for everyone here. I think we're sitting right about halftime on Cafe. And Akron struggling with disconnects, struggling with a lot of PC issues. JetCon, he was disconnecting, he was getting out of the game. And so Akron had already used their 2 allotted rehosts in the match so far. Baka, tell me what happened next.
Yeah, so they used their 2 timeouts, or 1 rehost, 1 timeout, which at the time I was looking at my phone on, when we're in game, playing Maestro, sitting on my cams while also on my phone, looking at the rules just to make sure that, they were following it, because, to be honest, I know Akron likes to stretch rules sometimes, or at least try to, you know, take it to their best advantage from playing them in previous years. So I think they're like, oh, we got JetCon to go on a different PC. We're gonna call rehost after this round, and we're just like, okay, like basically just played off, because in the middle of the round, looked at my phone, and by the time I got to it, we disconnected from the server because they were hosting. So we're like, okay, we'll just leave the server. We shouldn't have left it, because they would have had to play 4v5 the whole time. But since it was a little bit of a, oh, well, technically you guys left the server because they were hosting it, so we're like, oh, well, we have to leave regardless. Went to that whole situation. Then I realized on my phone, talking to admins, that we didn't have to leave, and that the timeouts and rehosts all counted towards 1. So you either used 1 and 1, 2 of 0, and then that's it. So
Gotcha.
how
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
clearly a convoluted, messy situation there. It seemed that, you guys left the lobby like 2 seconds early. Had you not done, essentially granting them their rehost, had you not done that, Akron would have had to play in a 4v5. And clearly, though, at the end of the day, it didn't matter. Obviously, I was a little bit concerned watching a Cravington stream. I was like, oh God, Akron, they got their rehost off. It's a 5v5. They're finally at full capacity. This one's going to be quick. But no, you guys certainly hung on and made that win count. So that was certainly impressive. But, Migs, I know you had some more drama cooking up in the background. What do you want to talk about next?
Yo, just people gotta know, if there's a default, there's a reason behind it. You can't just beat around the bush and say, oh well, Thanksgiving's coming up. This school doesn't have school the week of Thanksgiving, this and that. You could just assume that everyone's gonna be okay with it, and not play default, this and that. But if you're gonna go out, make a twit longer, you're gonna have to back it up. You can't just say, hey, this team wanted a forfeit win, they wanted to play default, we didn't, and then you only get 2 rounds.
Yeah, so to get a little bit more
Just
clarity here,
so-
Migs is being extremely vague, but talking about specifically all of the shenanigans that led into the Penn State Virginia Tech matchup. There were a lot of scheduling debates there, and the typical collegiate discussion of, are we going to play default time? How dare you force default time? That whole thing came up yet again. Taco, I know we wanted to use this as a nice little teaching moment for the community out there, because this has been, I feel like every week there's another Twitter drama about somebody forcing default time and somebody getting their panties in a bunch about it.
Jonah. First of all, it is a teaching moment. I just want to say, for everyone out there who's confused, what I need you to do is I need you to go find CR6, CEA, and Face It, how they've all been so kind and generous as to create some websites, right? And you can go on there, and through those websites, you can find their Discord, right? That's crazy. And you go onto their Discord, and you find the rules, you find the schedule. They're going to tell you so far in advance, it'll make your head spin when you're going to play. So you can actually plan around that. I know, it's crazy. Absolutely insane. The 21st century still blows my mind, but there is default time. And if you can't make default time, that is not the other team's problem. People take time out of their schedules to be available for default time. And if you're not willing to do the same thing, you don't deserve to have them bend over and be like, yeah, sure. Whoa, when are you free? Let me just clear that up. I was going to my mom's funeral, but she can wait. She's already dead. What's the point? Look, default time. It's there for a reason. If you can't make it, stop pissing and moaning about it. It's pathetic. 4 tweets for like not making default. Jeez, Louis. So boring, bro. That's all I had to say. I hope you took notes on that. You can clip it if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how. Obviously, the Penn State Virginia Tech, there was a whole extra layer of that. There was a lot of, oh, you said this, no, you said this, the usual stuff back and forth. But again, at the end of the day, it was about scheduling. So Taco, your point is very relevant here. I know there were a couple more things going on in the community again because teams, some people they like to go out there on Twitter. We already talked about Arizona State, give a little talk after that Akron game, but hey, Baca, you backed it up. So what can you say about that? But another one of these matchups, it was an open team. It was Cincinnati, who were getting a little bit excited about their prospects going forward in the collegiate championship preseason, and they posted their schedule. I think it was Migs a couple of weeks, a couple of days in advance. You can see the tweet here. Big week ahead. They've got their round of 32 versus UNCC, and then they've got their CA semis, followed by the round of 16 versus to be determined here. And so Alex here, I assume, have something to do with UNCC. I don't know.
That's Rogue.
It's Rogue, yes. Rogue.
Rogue. Okay, Rogue on UNCC. Calling them out, saying round of 16, you expected to get that far. How dare you, sir? And, obviously, maybe thinking a little bit too far ahead there, Klimpse.
A little bit. Sometimes some teams just get a little ahead of themselves. I'm sure Akron kind of had the same kind of idea when they thought they were playing against ASU, who an open team, right? But they showed up and they're playing really well lately. So I'm happy to have another West team, another Arizona team that's like 10 minutes that way down the road from us. So that there's actually someone to compete with. So
Did they invite you to the LAN? I heard there was a LAN coming up.
The LAN got canceled.
Oh,
Oh,
Our Overwatch
sucks.
team went to one, but there was no Rainbow Six one, unfortunately. So
I know.
we'll have to wait till next year or next semester or whenever it's going to happen.
I know we were hoping if we had beat UAH, we were hoping that we were gonna just do a Rainbow Six LAN, just our team versus your team.
Yes, sir.
We had 2 weeks to plan it, so it would have probably worked out. But
Oh yeah.
tragic. I'm sure we'll have an exhibition.
We were hoping
one
to
day,
play
or
you
we'll
guys.
play and face it. I know.
I've never played
we
against
wanted that
GCU in
Battle of
collegiate.
Arizona. I know we wanted
Never.
the Battle of Arizona, man.
You're not missing
It's
much.
tough. It's depressing. We'll get and face it, hopefully.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, speaking of, we can take a look at our final segment of the night here and walk through a couple of predictions, especially for the Rainbow Six Collegiate Championship preseason here, and take a look at the round of 4, these quarterfinal matchups we've got. On the round of 8, the quarterfinals here, we can walk through each of the matchups and talk about what do you think the predictions are going to be, and who you think is going to come out the victor. The first one is Converse versus Wisconsin Purple. Now, this is where things get really hairy because Wisconsin has like 100 teams, and in all the different leagues, they're named something else. Wisconsin Red and CR6 and CEA, that is now this newly fledged roster we've already talked about. Wisconsin Purple is slightly different. That one we're just going to skip because Converse are probably going to get all your predictions there. But we're going to move on to a couple of the more interesting ones, especially GCU. Actually, not yet. You guys lost. I'm just kidding. Purdue versus Ohio State.
Thanks, man.
Okay.
Thanks.
We've got Ohio State, who just beat NJIT, and we've got Purdue, who just took down Tulsa. They're facing off in the quarterfinals. Taco, what do you think about this matchup? Because Purdue are having a troubling performance recently, and Ohio State, this could be their chance.
Yeah, if there ever was a week to do it, this is probably the one. But I'm still hesitant. I don't want to influence everybody else, but I'm going to have to go with Purdue on this one. Right, Ohio State had an all right week, but they played NJIT, they played Penn State, and in both instances they lost a map. So I wouldn't necessarily call that a dominant performance out of the boys in Ohio at the Ohio State University. But that being said, Purdue probably had equally as disappointing of a week. But I think they're a team that when you get late into playoffs, it's just the consistency from them that's going to win the day. That being said, if Ohio State can get a little weird in the map bands and maybe find some maps that Purdue isn't as comfortable on, they could find it. But at the end of the day, I think Purdue is just going to be a little bit too ready for this one.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with Taco. I think it's scary looking at Purdue's inconsistencies. So there is that chance. In the past, I would be like, there's no shot. It's Purdue all the way 100% whatever, right? But if Purdue is caught on a day like they were caught on against Wisconsin, who knows? Who knows what we're gonna see? But I still take Purdue.
All right, JM, what do you think?
Mr. Autobot is here, and I say Purdue.
He broke his mic again.
This guy.
That's it.
I
That's
mean,
it.
maybe
literally heard,
stream
like-
heard you. I hope, because I didn't. Miggs,
yeah,
we're gonna move on to you.
Yo, I'm gonna be honest. The way Purdue's been playing, I kind of want to ride with them, but Ohio State hasn't looked terrible. I'm gonna flip the coin. I'm gonna go Ohio State this time. I think they can catch Purdue sleeping at the wheel this time.
All right, Baka, what about you?
Seeing as this is the match that would possibly play us if we do beat UAH, I'd want to play against Purdue because last time I played against Purdue, lost 8-7, 8-7. So I want to get that redemption again,
Woo.
making the redemption bracket this semester. So I'll do it again.
Awesome. Well, we can move on to your matchup. Natural transition there. We can see how the UAH Arizona State game is going to go. Now, naturally, Arizona State just took down Akron, just took down Virginia Tech, and now UAH also just took down Louisiana and took down GCU. GCU did end up beating the Santa Cruz Slugs. We talked about that on broadcast last week. Jagged came out with his bold prediction, but GCU was able to take that one, eventually falling to UAH in that round of 16. But now in the round of 8, it is Alabama Huntsville versus Arizona State. Excuse me, Taco. Once again, start the prediction with you.
If this matchup were to take place like 2 or 3 weeks in the future and OSA was allowed in competitive play, I would take UAH every day of the week. I think they're not going to lose once OSA's in comp. It's going to be honestly absurd, and it's going to be a little bit boring. So that might be the death of collegiate when OSA comes to comp, because UAH is just going to mop the floor with everybody. But that's not the case. And honestly, I think Arizona State has a pretty good chance at this one, especially if, Hendy's playing more and he's getting more kind of, used to playing with everybody else. They're only going to get stronger. So I think that they're a team that has proven what they are capable of already. And I don't think they're not going to be getting worse. So if they can play how they've been playing these last couple of weeks, I think UAH should be no problem. I'm a little biased because we played UAH and it wasn't that difficult, but other teams seem to have issues. So we'll have to see.
All right, Klimpse, what do you think? Obviously, you had issues with UAH.
Yeah, I think that ASU can beat that team. Just gotta be careful with the map bans. Don't lose in the map bans. I think we did. I don't think we expected UAH to know how to play Chalet at all because it was their auto ban, and then they pulled out and beat us 7-5. So just don't make the same mistake.
Did you ban the Monty, Klimpse, or did you leave Monty up?
We banned the Monty every round or every map, whatever.
Jonah,
Well,
before we-
7-5, 8-6, 8-6, I think was the scoreline, something like that.
All right, Taco, go ahead.
Before we go ahead, I do feel obliged to add that week in, week out, I feel like I am, talking down on UAH. It seems to be
You are. I mean, you're not feeling like it. You have.
Every week I do. And I just want to say they're not a bad team. They really aren't. I just have a lot of faith in this Arizona State team currently. So I just wanted to get that out there. I don't think they're bad.
Okay.
They might be, but I don't think they are.
Yeah, I don't think I ever got a prediction out. I do think it's going to be UAH, but I think ASU definitely has a stronger shot than most people would probably have realized a week ago.
Right. I mean, clearly coming out with some pretty good performances. JM, stream can hear you, so give us your thoughts.
I think ASU, they've really showed up the last little bit, showing that they know how to VOD review and everything like that and counter strat. And I like seeing underdogs win, so we're going with ASU.
Wow. All right. A lot of ASU predictions here. Miggs, are you going to continue the trend?
ASU has made me a believer. Just as long as they, stick to their guns and stick to their game plan, they could beat UAH. UAH's specialty is just catching teams off guard, expecting you to play outside, away from what you're used to, your comfort zone. So UAH is really beatable, but some teams just can't figure out the formula.
By the way, I'm an ASU fan. I want ASU to win. That's just my prediction of what's going to happen. I'd rather ASU win 10 times over UAH.
Well, Baka, naturally, you probably expect yourself to win. How much work do you think you're going to be able or willing or are going to put into this matchup going into it?
A lot of work. I know that the default day is the 30th. Not sure, assuming we're playing it then, but still need confirmation from Candy Kane, I believe. I contacted through DMs on Discord, no response yet. So looking good with the times, but we're gonna do as much prep as we can. We do have 2 weeks for this match, so a lot of time to prepare. We will be pulling out all that we can for this match, and yeah, you'll be seeing some new things. I want them to keep the Monty up because yeah, Monty's great. Love Monty.
Ooh, okay, calling it out on broadcast here, seeing some interesting stuff. Um, well, I will throw my hat into the ring just for this one here. I think ASU has an advantage that most upper collegiate teams never get, and that is you are a complete mystery at the moment, right? UAH and all these premier teams, they're on broadcast pretty regularly. They can be VOD reviewed, but obviously Arizona State has the one advantage that you guys remain a mystery. And if you use that to your advantage and you absolutely just prepare the living daylights out of this matchup, I think it is going to be an absolute barn burner that I hope we could get on stream somewhere because that should be a fantastic matchup to watch. Um, no doubt UAH are going to be the favorites. So Baka, I think you've got your work cut out for you to say the least. But that I think, we've got two other matchups. One I already talked about, the Converse Wisconsin matchup in the quarterfinals, and NC State versus UNCC. Don't think we'll go around for predictions for this one, but a little bit about this matchup. UNCC just took down a couple of the best open teams out there as far as we're concerned, other than Arizona State, obviously, who've been just come into the picture. Cincinnati and CGC UIC. They have formerly been pretty much not unanimously, but we have pretty much agreed that they are the top open teams right now. And CGC UIC has been looking better every single week, but UNCC took them both down 2-0 regardless. And now they go on to face NC State, a team that has had a pretty easy run of things in the bracket so far, taking down Texas A&M's B team, Buffalo, and Hawaii Manoa. So those have all been 2-0s from NC State. So they've all had a pretty strong, pretty decisive bracket so far, and they will be looking to close things out and move on to
Yeah,
the
good night, Migs.
semifinals. Jam, what was that?
I was laughing at Migs getting banned in chat.
Well, I think that's been a good hour. I think that's going to do it for us tonight. Any last words from here? Anyone here on the broadcast?
I think I flashed the rankings one last time. Someone was
Yeah.
asking for my chat.
All right, well, we can take, they're also at the ticker on the bottom, but we can take a look at them here on the graphic. The 1 to 25 this is week 10, the power rankings for week 10. Next week, we will not be releasing another set of power rankings. We'll not be having a stream next week because, there's going to be a lot of inconsistency with some matches being played this week, some matches being played next week. But in 2 weeks' time, we will be back and we will have a new set of rankings for you and hopefully a whole lot more shenanigans taking place. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to do it for us tonight. I want to thank you all for tuning in for another fantastic episode of the Dirt Report. Baka, thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure to have you. And everyone, thank you all for tuning in and have a fantastic rest or have a fantastic week. We're just getting into it, so have a great week. So long.